We're now just over a quarter way through 2025. And with that, we're starting to see those predictions that came out at the start of the year adjust their course a little bit and what we've been seeing here in the first couple of months of 2025. And obviously, if you've been paying any attention to this channel or real estate or anything in general these days, there's been a lot of economic uncertainty, both with our partners down south, but also an election coming up on April 28th here in Canada. So a lot of things have been moving as we've gone through the start of 2025. And let's jump right into this article from Roll a Page that says that they have basically a tale of two markets, Canada-wide and the major cities like Toronto, Vancouver. And by the way, there is something that stands out when they talk about a city like Toronto, and it kind of drives me a little bit crazy. So we're going to dive into exactly what that means here in this video. Jumping right into it, it says a tale of two markets, real estate activity trending up in Canada's more affordable regions, but treading water in the most expensive. And even though it's a tale of two markets, I'd say it's a city like Toronto, we actually have a tale of almost like 5 markets. And I'm going to break that down in what exactly that means here in this article. Greater regions of Toronto, Vancouver record modest price declines amid stalled activity in Q1. More of that in a second. While values in regional markets like Quebec, the Prairies, Atlantic Canada continue to appreciate. Here are the highlights that are maybe the most important for this article. The national aggregate home price rose 2.1% year over year, which is a pretty big jump year over year on across the board for a quarter of Q1 and a modest 1.2% over Q4 of 2024. So that means we've seen a 1% basically increase from Q4 2024 into Q1. And of course, from year over year, it's gone up about 2% across the board. In Montreal, Greater Montreal has increased almost 8% year over year, and Greater Toronto and Vancouver markets recorded declines of 2.7% and 0.7% respectively. And this is where, as mentioned, this drives me a little bit crazy. And I pulled up the Toronto Market Watch, and I have done other videos where if you want to go find this Market Watch, you can get those details of exactly the areas you're looking for and where to find the best deals in the city. If we take a look at Market Watch, I'm just going to jump right here to the March 2025 numbers. And if you have watched my other videos, we did talk about how March was one of the slowest, if not the slowest March we have seen in 30 years. And if we take a look here at the 416, so when they talk about Toronto, by the way, these articles, Greater Toronto Area, they are talking about a combined 416 and 905. If you're new to this channel, or if you're just trying to figure out what exactly is Toronto, 416 is the Toronto proper. The 905 is the Greater Toronto Area. This is a huge area. This is actually cities like Burlington going all the way east to cities like Clarington and going north to Innisfil. And if you don't know what those cities are, well, it kind of makes sense because they are quite a distance away from the core of Toronto. So those areas will perform differently than Toronto proper. In Toronto, if you're looking for a detached home, the prices actually went up year over year at 1.1%. And if you're looking for a semi-detached home, the most competitive property type in the city of Toronto proper, especially in the best areas, prices are up 2.5% year over year. And that's pretty significant. So when these articles say that prices are down Toronto wide, and anytime buyers come to me and say, no, I'm looking for a property, I've heard all the prices are down across the board, and I ask what they're looking for, they tell me a semi-detached in an area like Roncy or Leslieville. Generally, the conversation switches a little bit and we talk about what's happening in those pockets because, to be honest, they're very hot and properties are selling very, very quickly in multiple offers, even in today's market. Now, if you are looking for a townhouse, those prices are down basically 2.5%, and condos down about 2% year over year. So we have essentially where I said we have a tale of basically 5 markets. We have the Greater Toronto Area market, we have the Toronto market, we have the freehold market in the city, which is the semi-detached and detached. And then we have 2 types of condo markets. We have the larger size condos that are still moving pretty decently. And for example, they're just bigger spaces, places that have, for example, 2 bedrooms, 1,000 square feet, things like that. Then we have the smaller condo market, which is the 1-bedroom studio style, could be investor, could be first-time buyer type of market. So those are the 5 markets that I'm seeing right now in Toronto real estate. If we take a look at the 905, overall down 4.3% for detached, down almost 7% for semi-detached, down 4% for towns, and down 5% for condo apartments. So that article that talks about how Toronto is down is seriously misleading if you are looking for a property in Toronto proper in the best areas of the city. If we jump back to the article, it does say here that amid economic and political uncertainty, confidence in the economy is split, where 49% of Canadians say that they are confident, while 43% are are not. And my math, if we add 49 plus 43, does not equal 100% of Canadians, of course. And Quebecers most optimistic, 65% of respondents reporting confidence in the Canadian economy. Those in Manitoba and Saskatchewan are the least confident, 34%. Now, if we slide down this article, and there's a few things to unpack here. First, I'd like to talk about the economic outlook, where the global financial markets have experienced significant volatility in recent weeks. Of course, we've had talks from tariffs, we've had stock markets that have definitely pulled back, and we've had so many things in the background going on when it comes to anything that has to do with any kind of news outlets. And at the last rate announcement in March, and actually there was one that just happened in April where they did hold rates. And this article references the last rate announcement in March, and that experts believe the central bank will hold its rates on April the 16th. And they did. They actually held rates April 16th. This video is coming right after that. The next one is in June on whether or not they will make a move on the rates. Housing affordability for the election is on top of people's minds, especially for what each party is proposing. But I will say that looking at those proposals, there's not much to do with building homes that people actually want to buy in prices that people can actually pay. There's some discussions on removing GST on new home builds, which could help for buyers buying. But essentially, if home buyers are trying to get into the market for the first time, the cost to entry is still pretty high. But I do feel that the adjustment to the down payment structure should help that cause. And essentially, as mentioned, semi-detached and detached properties are up in the first quarter of 2025, despite what else is going on in the market. Those properties are typically the most expensive properties in the city of Toronto, and they're still trending upwards. So it is creating a bigger gap between those condos and those freehold properties. And last up, the forecast is that they are predicting that Canada should see a 5% increase in pricing from Q1 up to Q4. And this was revised down modestly to reflect the current slowdown of activity in Ontario and British Columbia. And if we do factor in those markets, for example, Greater Toronto, Greater Vancouver, typically the higher priced properties have come down for those markets as a whole, of course, and that will bring down that prediction for the year. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below on what you think will happen to home prices. I'm Michael Ouzas. Thanks for watching.